Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Professor Dr. Muhammad Tajuddin, and I will be giving a presentation on the topic of universities as agents of social change, where politics and religion fails. Now, this talk was given recently at UKM, and I'm repeating it with some minor amendments to my original presentation. Now, what is the main message of this talk? Which is, in the light of the failure of politicians and economic entities or religious institutions, as well as our school education, to bring about positive change in society, who is going to step up and who will help manage this social change towards the better? I propose that universities can become the agent of social change if the academics and students are given the proper KPI or the proper expectations. At the moment, the university's role is simply to provide industry with the workforce and to provide academics with the stature of researchers, so-called finding new knowledge, but hardly any of them play a major role in social change. Now, we are faced with some very difficult issues, like the social media, as well as the way that information is being taken up, propagated, and popularized, which brings chaos to a lot of situations and not much benefit for mankind. What we want is simply peace between all mankind and in oneself, meaning between races, between countries, between nations. We need an understanding, respect of each other, but we also need peace within ourselves. And this education of both peace within peoples as well as ourselves, someone needs to propagate that, and so far politicians and religious institutions I have seen failed to do anything at all towards a better change. We also need health for all, which is about the environmental health and also about mindfulness, meaning the peace within yourself that will propagate health. Health is not just about physical well-being, it's also about emotional, spiritual. Finally, we have issues of prosperity and survivability, which means about food production, energy, and shelter. These are the things that mankind actually need. And these are things that we need to work together as people to produce the prosperity, to produce the health, and to produce the peace. But what is happening now? What do we have now, actually? Well, we have a world in crisis. A crisis of what? A crisis of food, a crisis of some meteor coming to hit, or global warming? No, these are small in comparison to the crisis of trust, the crisis of hatred among each other. We look at the Palestinian Israel Hamas issue, it's dividing the world. And we look at the economic competition between USA and China, which is supposed to be just economics, putting food on the table or things for us to use, but it's turning out to be something else. And we have some group of people thinking that they are the only ones going to heaven and wanting to turn the whole country or the whole world into their view of what is the good life, and having terrorism, killing people indiscriminately. In our country, Malaysia, we have total racial distrust, total, I say, because we are in the worst situation that we have ever been in since the last 30 or 40 years. Why? Because of the social media, and also the much freedom given to so-called press, which does not know how to handle simple decorum as well as adab in terms of reporting and criticizing leaders. We have religious enmity propagated by political leaders who claim to hold the upper moral high ground, but we also have a middle class group, an upper middle class group, who are having money and wanting to be ready to go to heaven, and thinking that the only way is to do rituals and to protect themselves from the so-called enemies or temptations, and therefore they propagate the idea of a conservative society. The freedom of speech that has been provided by our unity government has given much distasteful commentaries from civil society. I am quite embarrassed and actually disgusted to actually read some of these things and wonder what are the editors doing, letting such a tone as well as such use of language such as this minister is a moron, or this minister is stupid, or the prime minister should just resign, things like that. This is very, very insulting. If you have something to say, you should just say it in a most in a courteous manner, without having to resort to such labelings. This has led to the loss of trust in government through the impatience of people wanting to have change. People think that Anwar Ibrahim becoming Prime Minister, he can wave a magic wand and then change overnight. The days of Tun Dr. Mahathir being the strong man is over, because this is what we have if we have freedom of speech and also the wide tolerance of democracy. Now, this is my personal view of what I think the role of university should be, having been an academic, I guess, all of my life. It is not in opposition actually to what the Prime Minister have said, as well as the Minister of Higher Education. Now, the Prime Minister and the Minister of Higher Education are both politicians. I am not. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Higher Education needs the votes of the Malays and other races. I do not need any votes to say what I wish to say. The Prime Minister and the Minister of Education have hordes of experts, 15 or 20 of them, and all of them are given the leeway to propagate their own little silos. Now, my strength comes from 37 years of being an academic, 25 years of actually being part of the public in terms of having engagements in terms of public talks, as well as writing columns, over 1,000 columns in the last 10 years or so. So I would call this a very important experience, because not many people would have that kind of a CV, I guess. For now, if we were to look at the heart of the problem, and I am a person trained in architecture. In architecture, we look at the heart of the problem. We don't look at 10 problems. We look at the heart of the problem. We may have 10 problems, but what is the heart? What controls it? Like the body, if you don't have a hand or a foot, you can still live. You can still be beneficial. But without a heart, and you will die. So what's happening in society and politics is that there is this tendency to actually simply look at problems in compartmentalization or in silos, like those experts that's advising the Prime Minister as well as the Minister of Higher Education. For me, I look at the heart of the problem, and none of these experts knows how to look at the heart of the problem, because they are in their own mindsets, separate from an idea of thinking in a larger construct. For me, the problem comes actually when people cease to respect other people. I've thought about it a great deal, and I found that that we have a problem of treating others with respect. Now, treating others with respect is not just being polite. It is actually thinking the idea that this person can help me. For instance, his or her blood can be given to me when I'm in need. or his or her organ can be given to me, or his or her own knowledge can help me, and I also can complement them. So this is the kind of respect that I'm talking about. Respect in the sense that we value each other, not respect in the sense of communication of politeness and things like that. That's not what I mean. The other thing is to accord dignity. And the best lesson given by Ajahn Brahm, the Buddhist monk, is that who is the most important people in the world? When he asked that question, the real answer is that anyone in front of you. So in any one time, if anyone's in front of you, he or she is the most important person of all. If we think about it, then we can get over this idea of race or so-called religion or so-called political ideologies and treat people with dignity. And if we can achieve this too, all the programs of environment, all the programs of health, all the programs of economy can easily be done because we trust each other, we need each other, and we must work together. It's all for one or none at all. So we need to have everyone, all for one and one for all. Now, why have this happened? I have seen that this is through our education construct where whether it's formal or informal education, we have the acceptance of history that comes in a box, and we don't question it. History about our race, our country, our politics, as well as our religion, how religion is being propagated. I'm not saying they are wrong, but I'm definitely sure that they are out of context with the needs of the time. What I mean is that the religion being propagated follows certain practices, concepts, understanding of hundreds of years ago that bears no semblance to what is happening now. Then we have the education of industry. All our education from school up to the university is all geared towards industry. What do we have? We have architects, we have engineers, we have doctors, we have lawyers. We are very good at that. Malaysian universities are tip-top. What we don't have is people with understanding of each other, people who appreciate one another, people who appreciate the heritage of others, people who love other people, and this is missing. Some people say, well, this one is not really needed. Well, if you studied about spirituality and religion as much as I have done, I have come to that conclusion that if you cannot have a compassionate understanding of another, or have a relationship that is bordering on the idea of dignity, according dignity, then I don't think you have any spirituality. Your spirituality is a false spirituality, bordering on identity religion and a silo mindset, and a selfish one at that. And finally, the idea of spirituality is not taught at the university, because university is supposed to be a place for the world, meaning you are supposed to be doing things, being to contribute to economy, it's always like that, economy, but not how to be spiritual. What's your relationship with the environment? It's not about you making economy out of the environment. It's not about you having some sort of benefit. The environment is the environment. It gives us a spiritual sense. In the Quran, it always says about the rivers, the trees, and these are the signs of God. And if you eliminate them simply for economic purposes, then you will not have anything much to remind you of God. So what we have is the spiritual deficit and its impact on global coexistence. Now, the world and humanity is caught in an information nightmare, and knowledge as the new weapon of mass destruction. I mean this. How we look at knowledge. Knowledge is simply structuring some sort of information with a certain narrative or with a certain perspective. Let's say knowledge about our nation's history. And then you put it together and say, one race is superior than the other, and therefore you propagate that blindly and also fanatically. And this comes to social media content, where it is fast, it is quick, it is done in a very exciting way with a lot of motorcycles and a lot of flag waving and a lot of chanting Allahu Akbar, and then you have it. You have the idea of some sort of narrative. Now, if information were to be shown clearly and positively, then people can act better. People can work together, people can trust each other. And my question here, who's supposed to give this? Who's supposed to package this information to counter those negative and toxic narrative? And if we look at the issues of information and communication, we have the problem of depth of understanding of an issue. Some people who have never heard of the Palestinian issue suddenly become experts in a matter of 2 weeks and starts boycotting McDonald's, boycotting Starbucks, causing all sort of economic woes to families and livelihood. They don't have any depth, but then they say that, well, I've watched 20 videos and I think I know what I'm talking about. Then we have popularity as truth. I've heard that some news portal are having problems with advertisers because advertisers love to give to influencers. And influencers, if they are popular, people always consider whatever they say as truth. So popularity equals truth, not integrity of information, not the idea of a balanced view. When something breaks out like the KK Mart, you see some stalking, then you just make up your mind just like that. That is not the way to handle information. So whether the information comes from credible sources or not is also irrelevant, as long as it's popular, it's beautifully played, it's beautifully done, and then you have media mob justice. And I coined the term satanic anonymity when I look at how people comment in the news section, and I don't think that the news portal should actually open their news for commentary, unless it is being edited and being given the opportunity to write in a better way. So we do not have adab of communication. We never studied that. We never really cared about it because we think that social media is simply a face talking and some very nice graphics. So what is the result of this information nightmare and weaponization of knowledge? Now, when I click on Islamic terrorism, there is this, I don't know whether it's a credible place, but it says it's related to the French authority, and it says there are 48,000 in the last 45 years. So that would be an average of 1,000 attacks a year, which comes down to about 3 a day. So I'm not really sure, but I do know of all this, the Orlando shooting, the California shooting, the Nice lorry killing, the Manchester bombing. All these are very fresh in my mind. And I happen to look at the Friday sermons, and the Friday sermon doesn't deal with this. And so this, in one sense, shows, I don't know, the indifference or the idea that, well, it's somebody else who's died. It's not Muslim. And this kind of apathy, this kind of indifference is, for me, a very dangerous thing and a devastating thing for a person to not care that children have died from bombings, even though they are not of our race or our religion. I am uncertain how is it religion is being taught not to care about others. I'm not certain how this, actually I'm certain, but then well, we'll deal with that in another video. So at home, well, we can see that there is much more issues, about 20 within the last 10 years that I can, off the count, not 20, but 20 or 30. We have the, of course, the Melayu Bible issue, the Bible burning issue, the Taman Austin incident, the Bon Odori, the Ramadan canteen incident. We have the Tudong Hotel incident, the laundromat issue. We have all this religious conflict. Some say cultural conflict. Well, cultural conflict means religious conflict. There is no such thing as cultural anymore. There's only religion. And so this has happened to Malaysia. Some of this happened actually just this year. I think perhaps maybe 8 or 9 that I can recall just this year, and this year is not even over yet. It's not even half a year. Well, let's look. Where were the academics when such thing happened? I was expecting that the academics, professors of social science, professors of religion, or even muftis to give some sort of semblance of what we call rationale rather than the irrational anger, the irrational hatred that is being propagated by such personalities, obviously in politics. Now, the mistake of a lot of people is they always blame politician because they see the politician doing this thing. For me, it's not the politician, it's already the masses. The masses are the one. Number one, you have a group, you have the people who are Muslims who have been educated in a certain way, and they support all this toxic narrative. Then you have a group of non-Muslim who respond in a very insulting way, as well as in a very impatient way, not even bothering to find out what the issue is, and they would just respond back because, well, in democracy you have freedom of speech. This is not the way for us to go. Now, another incident that really bothered me was how Hadi Awang's statement saying that the non-Muslims are all corruptible because they don't have Islam. I don't know who are the ones that are mostly in prison, especially one former prime minister, whether this is a Malay or not a Malay. But the question here is that why the silence from the Mufti, who's supposed to know religion, and to counter Hadi Awang's use of the Quranic verses. Now, what you have is that non-Malays politician like DAP will respond, and then you have this what I call chicken and duck speaking to each other, and this is something that is drawing the narrative even further and even stronger. We also have the other incident where Hadi Awang says that non-Muslims are like brainless animals without any sense of morality. This is lowering the dignity of a person to the lowest, even to be the same as animals. And I don't understand why he is being let off by saying all these things and not having anybody criticizing it. So I'm waiting for all these professors of Islam. There are many of them, much more expert than me, but I can counter him very easily because I know the Quran as well as the Hadith and the culture of Islam and the values of Islam propagated by the Prophet. But the silence from academia is deafening, and the silence from Mufti even more so. Now, here is also another disturbing, very disturbing trend, where we see that the issue of young people, and they are, well, I'm sorry to say, young Muslims. And first of all, we look at the UiTM Student Union protest against opening admissions to non-Bumi, which is the recent news, where there is no compassion for the idea of providing more specialist surgeons to serve the society. No compassion at all. What they did was to say, well, this is for Bumiputra, case closed. No talks of anything at all. So this is something which I think needs to be looked at very, very seriously, and it is a reflection of what we do at the university. Now, the second incident happened in 2019, where you have the GAMIS group, which is the Gabungan Mahasiswa Islam, demonstrating against the Dongzong for the issue of the Jawi script. At that time, the government decided to have the Jawi script to be imposed in the Bahasa Malaysia curriculum or syllabus, but the Dongzong protested, and the GAMIS gathered, and the leader said something like this: "Fellow Malaysians, open your eyes, witness how the treacherous DAP and its subsidiary Dongzong are dragging the country towards ethnic problems." Now, where does this leader get off associating DAP with Dongzong? Why didn't he associate with MCA or Gerakan? Why suddenly throws the DAP? He's speaking exactly like an UMNO politician. Do not allow May 13 to repeat itself. Because of Dong Zong, we will break down all the barriers of our unification to expel you from this country. Who gives him the right to expel people? Did somebody make him a minister of Home Affairs? So this arrogance of this Malay Muslim mahasiswa or varsity student, or perhaps a graduate, is very disturbing to me, because such arrogance and such ignorance are perhaps perpetuated from our universities, or at least from our national narrative. Now, I thought this was the worst, but then there was also another incident where a Muslim student did the Hitler salute during the convocation. And what was disturbing was not the salute. The disturbing thing was that he actually wrote in the Facebook that he agreed with Hitler for killing all the Jews, because the Jews were also the enemies of the Muslims. Now, how is it that we can produce somebody with this kind of attitude, that doesn't even know the Jews, have probably never met them, doesn't even care about children, women, old people dying, non-combatants being killed just like that, and propagating this idea of genocide? Now, we were very angry when Bruce Gilley said that, suggesting that perhaps Malaysian leaders support genocide. But then, what about this student? And the reaction was only from me and the German ambassador. No other reaction from the academics or anybody else for that matter. So on these three cases, the graduate shows disregard for dignity of the other. The graduates fail to understand history and its context. The graduate has no compassion for others. Graduates echoing and parroting national, political, race and religious narrative. Graduates in a siege tempurung mindset. Now, so many people are talking about, oh, the economy, oh, putting the graduates to work, putting them with skill, putting upskilling, all these things. But how do you deal with this idea of your graduates, or our graduates, are basically dehumanized, are not human at all? They seem more artificial in terms of being a robot that does not know compassion or dignity. And this is actually a product of our own. Now, we're not worried about that. Now, how do we move forward if these are the problems of how we lack this dignity, according dignity to others, as well as compassion and all the human values that we're supposed to thrive on? Now, in the way forward, we can look at the university as the test of First Nation. If the university fails, for me, then you can see how the nation is also going to fail. And I was right many years ago when I said this. We see the universities soaring in terms of their so-called research, their graduate, so much so that we are oversupply of a lot of these professionals that we are training. But we have gone down and down and down in terms of race and religious conflict and mistrust against each other. So we need a new idea of a graduate and the academic, as well as the leadership of the university. And so I will propose my own ideas about how we should do that, and we look upon as the new idea of what the university can be. Now, first question that we should ask is, have universities changed our life as a society and nation? Can you name 3 professors that you know and respect? Can you name 3 research centers with millions of funding that are important in your life? Can you recall your favorite columnist, YouTube influencer, or Facebook gurus that has a doctor or a professor to their name? Now, most people cannot, aside from, of course, my name. But the point here is that if we cannot recall such research centers and such professors, then what are they doing? Now, some of them will say, well, we have the responsibility of extending knowledge. Changing society is supposed to be for the ustad and the politician. I'm sorry, the ustad is not educated, all right, for this job. The ustad is only educated for a small job. And the politicians are stuck within the perspective of what we have now in terms of a toxic narrative of our own doing. Now, in my career, I have written many books, and the reason that I have done so is that I disagree with the universities in emphasizing so much writing for journals, even though that is something which most academics would do. I choose books because I want to share knowledge with society. I want the Malays to understand the Chinese architecture, the Chinese to understand Malay architecture, and I like to have people understand what Islamic architecture truly is. I must say that many of the mosques that I see probably does not have the quality of what I term as Islamic architecture from the values of the Prophet, not from historical precedent and things like that. So this is something which is missing, and you don't have professors doing this. Professors simply write papers, and then when they have students, their students write the papers, and they just sit around and supervise it. And they don't have the ability to actually explain things to the public. Many of the scientists propagating the idea of sustainability don't know how to talk to the public, don't know how to talk to the orang kampung. And so this is something which we need to look at. Now, if you look at the books by Michio Kaku, one of my favorite scientists, I learned a lot about what's going to happen in the future when science of all this technology, whether in genetic, whether in technology, or whether in communication, or whether in construction and things like that. This then paints a picture of how we're going to live in the future. We don't have this kind of scientists who can talk about what Malaysia will be in the future in its entirety, because our professors and academics are trained in a silo construct, meaning you are specialized to the point that you're specialized in a very minute manner. Now, it has its use in some ways, but we also need people who can philosophize, who can look beyond the so-called little data here and there. So we need that kind of academic to paint the picture, to create a narrative that is different than what we have now. Then we can see that are there people or a book written by professors in Malaysia that inspires us about our future, or have a YouTube channel to inspire us how we can change our life. Now, I've been reading this book by Yuval Noah Harari, who's a Jewish academic. Now, most Muslims will not do this because he's a Jew and he's Israeli. And so that alone is already something which even professors would not even touch. And this is very sad, because when professors become conservative, then, well, then that's the end. Nothing much can be said about it. Because politicians thrive on conservatism and also playing up on that issue. But for professors, well, that's the end of the university from me. So here is the professor of history, a young man, and he studied the idea of how human beings develop, and then he can predict into the future how some things that the human being can be superior to other animal kingdoms, and how this then empowers people to act. And so it's a very interesting reflection about our social and biological history, and that creates some ideas about how we will be moving forward. Now, have universities also inspired our children? Have you seen any books written to excite the children? Have you seen any cartoons or movies that were also inspired by academics? I love the movie Jurassic Park. Jurassic Park was inspired by an academic, or I think a doctoral, Michael Crichton, who understands genetics, engineering, and propagate what was going to happen or possibly could happen. Similarly, War Games was written by a master's graduate from a prestigious university. And all these are things that excite the mind and have all these possibilities. Now, I learned structures from Professor Dr. Mario Salvadoria, although I've never met him. And I read his book, While Buildings Stand Up. Why Buildings Fall Down, Structures for Architects, and also other books by him. And he has also written some books for children like Math Games and also Art of Construction, things like that for children's use. And this is something which we need to look at, how academics can prepare a new generation of excited inventors, innovators, and this kind of things. At the moment, they are just trendsetters for influencers. So, have universities elevated us towards higher spirituality? Now, this is another question. I'm not talking about religion because religion is divisive. We have Islam, Buddhism, Christianity, Hinduism. All these are into their own little buildings, little shops, little mindsets. Spirituality goes beyond that, and nobody dares to actually touch on the subject because, well, Islam especially has been made a legal thing, and if you were to say something like a comedy and a statement, and then you will get in trouble. Well, this is a very, very sad thing. I think if a professor were to talk about spirituality in a different sense, we should have the idea that such things that we can actually propose, the idea of what we look at, and if we don't do that, then we're stuck with the Jabatan Agama, which actually does not have any expertise of PhDs or prestigious people who can think. They are only administrators, and administrators who are shallow thinking are the most dangerous of all. So when I learned about spirituality from Eckhart Tolle, who has self-studied, and he had used various aspects of Buddhism, Christianity, and also other religions to give a new, different perspective, not the traditional way of looking at it. So using the same thoughts of the great teachers of the past, but it's using it in a more universal manner, that you don't have this religion, but you have this peaceful coexistence with one another. That is also something which is badly needed now. So what should the new vision of the university be? We can change the curriculum of the university, change the KPI of the academics, find new roles of professors, and we have new ways of appointing leadership, and then a new management of departments, new grant approvals, and encouragement of books and media publication. Now, top of the list for me is the changing the curriculum, meaning instead of having teaching 80% subjects of architecture or engineering or business studies or whatever, we should have a 50, 30, 20. What does that mean? It means 50% would be the specialization, 30% would be a multidisciplinary, meaning different kinds of subjects that would create a holistic individual. If you are studying science, then you will be studying also the social science, the humanities, and other aspects that will make you a whole person rather than just part of a person who is expert or knows or specializes in one area. The other 20% is my idea about having 3 internship. The first internship is of course with the specialization like architecture or engineering, but the second internship should be with the Wakil Rakyat or with the administrator, so that this person can know how the country is run, what are the mechanisms, what are the agencies, and understands, because this person may be a leader in the future. The third internship would be with NGO. Why NGO? Because the person or the graduate needs to learn that in order to change society, you don't really need the machinery of the administration. You can do it yourself through the social work, and that work is not necessarily rewarded with money, but work is also part of the spiritual growth and a responsibility of society growth. Now, at the moment, who teaches this? Now, some say that, well, it's being taught in the MPU subject. Well, I'm sorry, but it's not being immersed. It's not being empathized. It's not being effectively imparted. You cannot impart something unless you go and experience it. And many people don't understand that knowledge is not about just reading a book or watching a YouTube. You need to go and be part of it. And if you're not part of it, you cannot call yourself an expert. You cannot call yourself an expert. That's why many researchers who use Google Form surveys, I don't like that very much. I said you should go to the ground and interact with the people, participant observation or structured interviews, and actually see the ground itself. So this is how I think we can grow a different kind of people. Now, we have to change the KPI of the academics to be more not just research oriented. Okay, they should be public engagement, be writing books and cultivating media. The media must know them, and they must also know how to deal with the media. It cannot be that sometimes you win an award and then you get interviewed by the media. No, you need to be proactive, like I was when in my younger days. I would go to the media and offer myself to write, and sometimes I get rejected, but then eventually I was writing. And at first I write not for money, but then after that, well, as a columnist, they pay you, and it's quite lucrative in many ways. But that's not the purpose. The purpose is to actually interact and engage and communicate in a different manner. Now, appointment of professors should not just be about how many papers they write, but also about how they engage with the society and whether the society knows them. If the society can't even pronounce their name, don't even remember who they are, then forget it. All right. So next is we can look at new ways of appointing university leadership. The vice chancellor should not be appointed internally. At the moment, it's a very internal process and a very political one in terms of the ministry. The candidates must write in the media, must explain what they're going to do with the universities for 3 years, what is their idea, what is the problem of the society. They need to have that. They need to have that public engagement, because the university, public university, belongs to the people. Okay, and their responsibility is not just to produce workers. Their responsibility is also to produce knowledge that can benefit mankind, but not benefit numbers. Right at the moment, I've heard so many vice chancellors present. Oh, last year we have 100 research. Now we have 200. So very good lah. Last year our ranking was 200. Now it's 100. Very good lah. All these are numbers, useless. I would just ignore most of this presentation because it means nothing. It means nothing. And some say, how can it not mean nothing, Prof? It's millions of ringgit. So yeah, but what does, I mean, we still have problems of flood. We still have problems of dengue. We still have problems of regulation. You name it, we have it. But the university is soaring in terms of numbers of research. So what is going on here? And VC wants being appointed by a committee of various people, including the society, should face the public in terms of the media and inform them where the university is at the moment and where they are going, what are their problems, and then this can be something that would engage both the public and the academics. Now, the heart of all universities are the departments. You do not get your architecture degree from the vice chancellor. You get it from the Department of Architecture. So the Department of Architecture or Department of Engineering is the core, is the heart. At the moment, everything goes to the chancellery. Now, the chancellery is nothing. Okay, I'll pause that for effect. It's nothing. You don't get your degree from the chancellery. You get it from the department. So the department should have a board of advisors, not the board of governors, in which there are players of the fields as well as the social society. And these people would then formulate some sort of idea of what the problem of the country is or the world, and present that to the group of academics who will then turn it into research and assignments to their student. In that manner, at the moment, the way that is being done, okay, we need 5 research, we need 10 research, and so everybody goes to their corner and they just write the research. This is what's happening, and money is being spent. And I think this should stop. We should have this board of advisors giving some sort of a forum, or they can call other people and moderate the forum, and then explain what is the problem, and then debate with the academics as to what the problem is and what should be done. How do we move? So grants again is an internal process. You got R1 million or 200,000. It's still for a lot of money. I think it should go to the public to actually see where is it going. What's its impact going to be into the society? So these are the things that I think is necessary for us to have. Now, the lost art of book publication, popular books, books for the masses, like what Michio Kaku had done, books for the children, are all must be equally treated. It cannot be belittled and cannot be said, oh, this is just for popular, this is not a research book. In my career, I'm disgusted with a lot of some people say, oh, well, this is a research book, so it's more valued than this popular book. Do you know how difficult it is to write something to explain to people? So this requires an explanation, like what Michio Kaku is doing. He's a popularizer, all right? And popularizing, then you need certain way of speaking, writing, and things like that. Writing for few people in terms of its your peer review is a different kind of writing, and both of them must be treated equally. Stephen Hawking would not have gotten his Nobel Prize if he did not write his book, The Brief History of Time. Now, that was his explanation to the public about the mysteries of the cosmos and time, making it easy for us to understand. And that's not at all an easy job. Finally, we come to the almost conclusion. With all this explanation of the academics and their new KPI, and we will have a people that have proper understanding. Now they don't have proper understanding. Now we have people who will tolerate and accept. Once they understand something, that they will be able to accept. If nobody's explaining anything, then the influencer, very pretty lady, will influence you. This is not the way to go. People will be more patient when they understand the process of change. They'll be more inclusive. They're not exclusive or saying, okay, no way, non-Bumiputra cannot come in. That sort of nonsense. People will have more trust. People will look towards a defined future, because the academics will be creating the future, not the politician. You leave the politician to create the future, well, good luck then. Progress will move faster, and then mistakes will be learned, forgiven, corrected, and things move forward. Not like the KK Mat issue, where a mistake is taken up by a politician, and then you have to wait 4 weeks until the Mufti say, oh, we have to forgive the mistake. Come on, this is not supposed to be the way for us to go. Finally, in conclusion, knowledge and the university must be the bridge between all humanity and between all civilization. Where is the bridge? Okay, and, at the moment, academics are in it for themselves alone, and the universities are there again for themselves, and their role simply is to just produce and produce and produce workers and workers and workers. I don't understand why we are doing this. For me, complete nonsense. Okay, we have the ability to actually make the world better, but all we care about are numbers. All we care about our prestige, our personal glory, and that's all that matters. It's a rat race, and it's a game, and I don't think we are better than the worst of politicians. The university must be the peace builder of all humankind, and once we are able to accord dignity to others, we can have our peace, we can have our health, and definitely we will have our prosperity in all the manner that it comes. And that is how I think the university can be and should be the agents for social change, giving a new life to the purpose of academia and the purpose of the graduates to change life as well as society towards becoming a better and a more meaningful existence. Thank you.